GHAC, the Greater Hyderabad Adventure Club, is our partner, for this particular Startup Saturday, where they're helping us with reaching out to the right folks. So those who are interested can join us in this session. So thank you, GHAC, for being a part of this. Now, let's move to the next panel. Travel experience, the deal breaker. What we understand is you can have the best of technologies, you can have the best of people and everything, but if the experience is not right, I think it's not going to get you the deal. So that's where we come with travel experience, the deal breaker. And our speakers for this particular panel are going to be Arjun Majumdar, who's the founder and CEO of Indiahikes. We also have Shalini Jain, who's the travel curator at Click2travel, and Tejaswini Gopal Swami, co-founder, Unventured Expeditions. Thank you so much for joining us at Startup Saturday. We will, start with introduction of each of you, your background. Maybe Shalini could take the lead. What is it, the background from which you come? How did, you start up what you started? How did the idea come about? How did you put the initial team? Maybe if you could just, give some thoughts on this, and then we will proceed to the, further questions. Shalini, if you could begin with this.
Hi guys, hope you all are having a good time and getting to learn and know a lot as well. So a little about me. I started pretty early in life at about 17. I always wanted to do something in travel. I did do a bit of my theory in my pilot's course, but unfortunately I couldn't take it up. So the next step was what next in travel. And then the best thing that I could, the opportunity that I got was working with American Express and Holiday in Pune. So I was based out of Pune then. And I learned everything in travel then, corporate travel, PR, ticketing, leisure holidays, everything pretty much. And then I got married and moved to Delhi. So once you're married and then you want to start a family, so my husband is also from travel, so we thought that we might as well start our own thing because that was eventually what we wanted to do. So way back in 2004, we started our own travel agency, and then Click2travel was born and registered in 2008. And there's been no looking back actually, because we've both been so passionate about travel and meeting people, cultures, suggesting experiences. And we've just been reinventing thereon from what we wanting to do initially. It was of course everything. There was even railway tickets when we started off, but now, because over a period of years, we've now created our niche and we're now restricted to experiences and no cookie cutter itineraries. We don't do cookie cutter itineraries. So that's a bit about me. And Click2travel is, we have a branch in Pune as well. We have a marketing office in Mumbai. Delhi is where we are all based, and we have about 10 of us. We're 10 of us here in the team, and growing.
So Shalini, very interestingly, I observed you use the designation as a travel curator. You continue to use that. I think it's in the earlier days you would have used that, and you continue to use that. Any specific background with that, or any story?
So, that's a recent development. Being a travel curator, it was not always a travel curator. I've started from being a travel executive to being a travel manager to being a CEO, director, so on and so forth. But eventually I thought I'd stick with curator because of late, of course, with all the experiences and the travel, I can now identify what the client wants rather than giving him the world on his plate. It's better I give him what he wants and what will make his holiday absolutely memorable as per his profile, as per what he wants. There's not just giving something, okay, aap Singapore le lo, and we are sorted. No, it doesn't work like that.
Sure. Great. Arjun, can we hear from you next? Arjun, are you with us?
Hi, good afternoon, and good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here. So, Indiahikes started way back in 2008, 2007 or 8, something around that time. See, I have personally been into this entrepreneurial ventures ever since I was in my early 20s. So I'm talking about 1999. At that time, my family and us, we ran a chain of language training institutes in our country. and we had a lot of branches in Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata, and so forth. Eventually, we ventured. I had a passion for trekking and things like that, and I always noticed that there was a lot of problem with the trekking world. And solving these problems and talking about it, eventually one day, I myself don't know when it started, but Indiahikes started. And today, Indiahikes is India's largest trekking organization.
Right.
20,000 people trek with us every.
Right. So you're focusing on a very, very niche that is hiking, and you've built really sort of a brand around that. And I think you're the leaders in, if anybody wants hiking, the go-to place is going to be India Hikes. So great with that, Arjun. Congratulations on that. We will, in the following rounds of discussion, we will know more about India Hikes as well. Tejaswini, do we have you here?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So could you just please, give us a little brief about background, unventured expeditions, and so on? Yeah.
Right. So, well, I have about 12 plus years
You're counting.
in
Anytime you
advertising.
can. Yeah.
Sorry, what?
You're counting. You're counting. Yeah, please.
Yeah, no. You always count your corporate life. When you start your own, when you start something you're passionate about, you lose count of it. So yeah. I have about 12 plus years in advertising and marketing. I've always been I worked in an agency. I've been an agency girl, and that I believed was my calling. But there is always something that will change your mind. So we started Unventured Expeditions is started by my partner from my classmate from school, Gurudeep Ramakrishna, and I. We both started this organization in 2014, and it. Well, to tell you how it started is a really long story, but I'll tell you why it started.
Sure.
It started because we really wanted to change the way people travel, and it was one trip to Bhutan. Bhutan is one of my favorite places in the whole wide world. It was one trip to Bhutan, and I've always believed, and I speak for my partner as well. We've believed that a travel experience must change your life, or else there is no point stepping outside the house.
Right.
Right?
Every time you go traveling, you come back as a new person, right?
Yes, you come back as a new person. You come back learning something new. You come back experiencing something that's absolutely unique that you have not experienced before. Every time, and I believe it's not just travel, every time you step outside of your house, the experience should be magnificent.
Right.
Right? If it's anything less than magnificent, it's probably not so worth it. So we wanted to make that experience part of travel. That was why we started it. And the only way we believed to do that is to partake in travel actively. When you partake in anything actively, you see a different side of things. Be it actively listening, actively hearing, actively cycling, actively hiking, actively diving. Doing anything that is conscious in the moment and active will change your perspective. So given that scenario, we started Unventured. We offer hike, bike, and dive tours, currently in India, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. These are long haul tours. We also have something called day tours, which is in Bangalore, Mysore, and growing to different cities, where a traveler will bike or take active walks around the city and learn a lot more about the history, culture, stories of this land. So that is what we do.
Great, great. So I also went through your website, and I saw there people cycle for 30, 40, 50, 60 kilometers in a day. Is that
That's the least
is
of
that
it. No,
true?
but
Do they, I mean, yeah.
yeah. So they cycle about. See, when you're how do I say this? When you see, cycling it always comes with a stigma, right? And I had that, and I see where you're coming from. I had that stigma myself, and I was like, God, who cycles for 60 kilometers a day?
This, more than the stigma, it's about, I haven't cycled for a while now. So will I be able to cycle for 50 kilometers in a day is the question mark. And then if I don't, will I have a vehicle coming along with me who will take me if needed? So that's my bigger worry or question there.
Yes. So that's where we say, adventure with a softer landing.
Okay.
So, the softer landing is the vehicle that will come and take you away. The adventure is that you make up your mind and you ride the whole distance, and that is the adventure.
Okay, okay, great, great. So we will now, having had introductions from each one of you, each one of your companies, your startups, we will now move on to, our first question, and that question is, our first question, and that question is, very at the heart of what each one of you is doing. How do you, as a company, decide which experience to offer and which one to not offer? How do you decide? Because every individual, every human being has a different taste, a different liking, a dislike and like. How do you come up with that? Is it even scalable? Can you replicate this with other people, or is it you have to be at the heart of it? Do we need Tejaswini, Shalini, and Arjun at the heart of it, or is it replicable? Thoughts around this, please. Maybe Shalini, you could begin with this. Yeah.
So you can't have every experience for everyone. Everyone has their own preferences. Someone would want a nightlife. Someone would want a lot of culture, heritage, architecture. Someone, if you give someone who really likes architecture, you put them into a destination. You give them a destination which is all about nightlife or probably just beaches. They're going to be totally lost. So you have to have a sort of a questionnaire or sit and have a chat with them, that what do you like? Are you going with your family? What does your family like? There are a lot of people who go for golf tours. So these guys, they group up together, they go for golf. But if they're taking the family along, the wives and the children, they're going to get thoroughly bored. What are they going to do? So it has to be curated for everybody as per their preferences. You can't, else they're just going to be lost and come back unhappy.
Right, right. Tejaswini, your thoughts on that? How do you guys, create that experience? Because you've particularly been stressing on the fact that it has to be memorable, it has to be awesome, it has to be unlike anything else. So how do you do that? What's the recipe? Maybe if you could tell us.
I'll tell you one basic agenda, one basic entity that makes every travel experience awesome. That is the outdoors, right? It is stepping away from your own comfort zone, which takes you to this mode of being, this experience of amazing, right? And as Shalini said, yes, you have to understand each person's personal, interests and perspectives. But what I believe is you cannot give your customer too many choices, right? What we do at Unventured is we don't have cookie cutter experiences, but we put out only what we believe is amazing, right? Be it an experience in Bhutan, or be it an experience in Sikkim, or be it an experience in Sri Lanka. We pick out some of the must do, must see activities, and that is only some. And then what we also do is add this whole experience of what you call a cultural introduction. And now we take these must do, must see with cultural introduction and a piece of adventure, and then we deliver it through the voices of a local. So this local person makes or breaks the experience. Now these are majority of our experiences. And what we try and also do is, while we go to any destination, we're also economically, culturally supporting these destinations. Sometimes when you give the customer everything and anything he wants, he can do it by himself in his own city, right? We are called the experts because we know what is great and we know what is amazing. So as much as we give definite importance to their likes and dislikes, and but we also we tell them that there have been times when I've said that, hey, don't do this, and instead this is an amazing experience to do. 99% of the time they've come back and said you were right. And that is how you make you scale also. If you but going into personal details into everything, it's difficult to scale. We've tried that.
Right, right. It must be quite a task. Arjun, coming to you now. how do you decide, which one is worth, offering? Is it like the most sought after versus the most desired one, or how do you curate that experience? What is it like?
Actually, my answer would differ a lot from both of the ladies here. And that's because of a little bit of a background, because we have kind of developed the market. We have created this whole trekking world. So we are not creating experience. We're actually developing this whole creating world, and the whole creating this trekking world is developed around Indiahikes in our country today. So all the major treks that you know in our country, all the good treks that people have done, they've kind of been explored and brought out in our country by India. So now these are the treks which now people do, and now these have become experience for other organizations to take on. So it is more like we have kind of started this whole the trekking culture in our country has kind of evolved ever since India Hacks came into the world in our country. So we are more or less kind of deciding what people need by even now exploring new treks, new trails. Some of them work out, some of them when we walk on them, we know that this will probably not be so good for people. We use our own experience and judgment, and then eventually more or less, because we have been in this world since our childhood, we know exactly which trails are great and which should not be great. Sometimes, of course, some of them we are very surprised, but it's like.
Right. I think, I think if I may say, for the audience here, India Hikes is the final authority. I would say is one of the highest authority, if I would say, for hiking in India. And anything related to hiking, if you require, one would definitely have to cross paths with India Hikes. That's how I have come across India Hikes. Whatever I could study, India Hikes. That's what I've come to know. So yeah, great work with that, Arjun. Congrats to you once again on that. Now, slightly moving slightly different to this. If an individual amongst us, today in this panel, or people who are going to watch this video later, if somebody wanted to start in your respective domains, Shalini, Tejaswini, and Arjun, this is for all the three of you. What are those respective qualities, those specific qualities, or the background, or what is it that is needed for the individual to start? Or can anybody start? Is it even possible, or is it, there's a high entry barrier? If you could throw some light on that. Mm, Tejaswini or Arjun, one of you could lead this. Yeah.
I'll let Arjun
Yeah.
lead this.
Okay, Arjun.
Yeah. What I have seen that I think it's not too difficult to start. What is required is being a hobbyist yourself, being a kind of a very keen traveler, or in our case like a trekker or whatever it is. You need to yourself have done this couple of times or many number of times. Once you do that, you kind of understand where the problems are and where the pains are, and then I think you can start, because these are one of those sectors. Travel sectors is not too difficult to start. I don't know whether you can scale it to whatever scale that you have imagined it, but I will definitely say that it is not too difficult to start, and you must, and it's not too difficult at all. And the critical thing is that interest in this world, the interest must be there. You cannot come from unrelated industry and say, I want to start travel office. That would be my answer.
Right. So relevant industry experience is definitely, is good to have, is great to have, or at the expense of sounding, I would say it's a must have. You should have some kind of experience. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. The journey is going to be difficult. Yeah.
Yes, I would say
Great.
so. Just because the ladies
Tejaswini,
here,
can
they
we
have
have?
themselves.
Sorry.
Yeah. I was moving on to you. Arjun had to add something. Please, Arjun,
Yes, you
continue.
can tell. Please carry on.
All right, great.
Okay.
So, yeah, to answer your question, Shrikant, um, I agree with Arjun. I mean, he has a very valid point. It's true. You should have the passion for it. And I'll tell you one thing that we've seen. You should love it enough that every day you should want to wake up and do it. And if you don't love it that much, then it's not worth coming into this industry, because they say that the 365 days in a year, and you should love it for at least 250 days. because not every day you're going to love it and say, oh great, I had a wonderful day. That's a bit of toxic positivity there. But if you love it for 250 days, I think you've got a good thing, and you must love it enough to know that you're going to wake up and want to do this for 250 days. As for background, yes, a little bit of a good network and background will help, right? And a good piece of mentorship from people who have been in the industry to basically know that, hey, these are these are wins and these may not be wins, and those are important to know. But end of the day, your customer is your final judge, and and you will constantly get your feedback from your customer if you should be in the business or not.
Okay, great. But that's after starting up. So definitely that's after, you've started up. Would you understand that? So yeah, there's slight element of risk or, slight,
Right.
yeah, sure.
Right.
Shalini, your thoughts on that, please.
How easy is it to start? Very easy,
Okay.
because unfortunately, there is no certification, no license that is really needed. Anyone can just start. But yes, they have to love traveling as much as wanting to live out of a suitcase and not grumbling, losing your baggage, traveling endless number of nights, being out and about, doing your recce of numerous hotels, and then being able to suggest which one is right for your client and which one is not. If you're going to put a family into an adults only resort, they're going to definitely not like it. I mean, of course, you cannot put them, but if there are no facilities for a child, for children, they're going to be so bored. Or if someone really loves swimming and you're going to put them into a hotel which has no pool, they're going to, come back and say, dude, where have you put me? And I'm not happy. I don't like it. Change my hotel. And then to change it last minute is another pain. It's not as
Right.
easy. How glamorous it is? Very. Because half the world thinks that all you're doing is just traveling and enjoying your life. But what they don't see is the pains that we go through to actually experience all this and then suggest it accurately to someone. That's another thing.
Sure. Sure.
You
Okay.
can't really start up a niche segment without any prior experience. Like Arjun and Tejaswini said, you have to have some sort of an experience for sure, and a bit of an expertise. Now, if you're not going to have confidence in your voice when you're recommending something to someone, say in case of Tejaswini and Arjun, they have extremely niche segments, and it's just hikes and it's dives, and but in my case, it's everything, because we do everything for our clients, right from the planning till the time they come back into their house is entirely our responsibility, safely, happily. So and we have to recommend them everything, where you're going for your night out, where you're going for dinner, you want to have a celebration tonight, you want to do a baby shower, you want to have a baby moon. There's so many things, there's so many aspects to it. So if you do not have
Right.
all the local information that you can give to what your client is really going to enjoy. If there is a silver anniversary and they want to have a beach setup dinner, you have to have all that handy. If you are absolutely new to to being a travel curator or a travel expert, you're not going to have all this information absolutely handy. And if the confidence in your voice is not going to reflect to your client, it's definitely not going to work out.
Okay, great. I think valid points there. You need experience, but it's easy to get into if it's not a niche. So yeah, I think very valid points there, Shalini. We'll move to something that is again related to it connects the three businesses, and I'll tell you how scalable is each of your business. When we talk about scalability, it's not just about the people, but it's also about the number of experiences that you can offer, the number of hikes that you can offer, or the travel experiences. So how is it in terms of scalability? Because technology may not really be able to solve the conversation part of it. You can specifically tell or understand, maybe build artificial intelligence, but to what extent, I doubt. I have my reservations on that. But if each one of you could throw some light on that, how scalable is it, both in terms of team as well as the experience on both the sides, internal as well as the customer facing side? Yeah. Arjun, you're
Right.
taking lead there, Arjun?
Yes, yes. I think these businesses are pretty scalable still. Very frankly speaking, even though we have been doing it for about 10, 12 years now, trekking world is still a very niche world in our country. It's very small if you compare with the global world. It is still very, very small in our country. So there's a lot of scope for growth for the trekking world as such. It is true that some trekking trails have become a little overcrowded, and we are trying to move people away from those overcrowded trails. But if you look at the trekking world as such, I think it is still very small in our country. And I would venture to say that even for both our ladies, it's still very small and it is scalable for the next few years at least.
Okay, okay. Tejaswini, over to you.
Yeah. To answer your question, Shrikant, is it scalable? Yes.
Okay.
How is it scalable? Here is what we believe it is, right? We're in a market, we're in a sunrise market where the audience has to be informed. You have to build a a community, right? Be it biking, and I'm sure Arjun will concur and say, even with hiking, when he started in Indiahikes, he had to build the hiking community. It was not easy, and earlier it was mostly the foreigners who came to hike the Himalayas, right? For the Indian, it was only very recently that the domestic audience took to adventure, right? So we're in a sunrise industry. The fantastic news about being in a sunrise industry is that it's very typical. I just like to break for a little piece here, where there was a shoe salesman who went to a village and he said nobody wears a shoe here,
Correct,
so
correct.
it's useless. Then another shoe salesman, he came and then he said, well, nobody is wearing a shoe here. So, the fantastic piece is that nobody is taking bicycle tours in this country. Nobody, when we entered, there were not too many people doing bicycle tours in the country, right? There were not too many people who were going diving in the country. There were not too many people who were actively saying that, okay, I'm going to hike a hill up now. So scalability, yes. So you have to build. Here's to how do you build the scalability? You educate the market. You build your audience. You do such a great job that your audience comes back to you over and over again, right? And then they go out and tell more people that you're doing a great job, right? And in terms of, to give you a number in terms of team and in terms of a revenue, that would be difficult, right? But
Yeah.
everybody who wants to move away from being an engineer, right, or okay, I'm going to be a software engineer. These are fantastic things, but if there is an individual who says my passion is in the outdoors and I want to make a living out of it, and I want to put bread on my table, enjoying, working in the outdoors, enjoying what I do, the scalability comes in when you are able to employ all those people and you're able to deploy experiences to all those people who say, I would like a life-changing experience in experiencing a vacation actively through hiking, biking, or diving. So whatever it is, when you're able to match these two, you have a scalable model.
Right. One of the things, Tejaswini, you mentioned about people coming back to you again and again. I happened to read one particular feedback from your, I think, a customer who had come from some place and was staying over the weekend in Bangalore. And they said, whenever I'm in Bangalore, I have Saturday and Sunday. Unventured Expedition is a place to be, just go along cycling and enjoy the weekend. So I think great. I think, very much it resonates and it reflects in, the mentions on your website. So I think great work with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Shalini, your thoughts on this, please.
It's not difficult to scale up, honestly.
Okay.
It's pretty easy. Although there is an overdose of information on the internet about every activity, every nook and corner of every city in the world that people go to. So even if you want to just stroll around, there's so many walking tours. But how does the client know what is right for him and which operator is correct, which he can avail. To book, you can book the entire tour yourself, but how reliable are they? How good are they? How authentic are they with the information? So all that information overdose which is already there, to actually know which is the right one and how do you plan your trip accurately, also availing the discounts which are available online. I think that's where we come in. That's where our
Right.
expertise comes in. When we've been there, we've seen, we know who is what, which vendor gives what information, licenses. A simple thing as having license guides. I mean, if you're booking it off the internet, you wouldn't know how experienced are the guides who are going to take you on a walking tour. The internet doesn't give you that information. So that's where we come in. And when you have the experience and you have the expertise and the know-how, which, what to suggest and which tour should they be taking, in their excitement, they could opt for a 6 hours walking tour. But if you're walking in Florence for 6 hours, and it may not be comfortable for someone because they're all mostly pretty much cobble streets and a lot of stairs. So who is going to give that information that 6 hours walking tour in Florence is not practical and opt for a 4 hour one?
Sure.
Yeah, so
Very valid points there, Shalini. Tejaswini, we have one question for you from the audience, and we'll then move to discussing a lot more about the current situation, that is the crisis that is, that all of us are facing, and how are we managing this. Quickly going to that question, Tejaswini, Wilson is asking, what are the key factors that you consider while curating an itinerary? Have you been able to map the gap between expectations and in experience? What have been they like? You're on mute. Tejaswini, you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry, just still figuring this out.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. Uh, Here, so while curating an itinerary, the factors that we look at is, again, like I said, right, we've always believed that if we love it, we should put it out. And we set really high standards for ourselves. But however, having said that, we also understand people come with varied expectations, right? Um, we start with setting the lowest expectations.
Okay.
You know, we set low expectations and we deliver high. And to map the gap between expectations and experience. Right. So experiential travel itself comes with a lot of, it's a bit of what do you call it? It's a curved ball, right? It comes with instances where, you have a local tour, you have a local tour guide, which could, who may not know a few things, but it is one to basically get down to the point. It is important to set low expectations,
Okay.
right? And then, deliver a great experience.
Okay.
And the gap is, for, I think it's person to person. And when a traveler reaches out to us, we tell them that, look, we're going to create an experience that is going to change a little bit of your mindset from what it was today to something different, and that is going to be in a positive way.
Okay.
And having said that, it's all about your customer journey is where you map the gap, starting from your website to the emails that go out. How do you inform your emailer? How do you inform your customer? Every customer in our organization goes through a Skype call, right? If they're in Bangalore, we meet them.
Right.
Before they get on a ride, we have practice rides,
Okay.
right? And I lead those rides, and we ourselves are tour leaders. So we understand ground realities. So we set the right expectations. So if I tell you, Shrikant, that you're going to get, a Caesar salad for lunch, and I give you something else with it and add a pumpkin, roasted pumpkin soup,
That's
you're going to
okay.
like it.
Yeah.
You're going to like it. But that is how you map the journey. And in the mapping of the customer journey is how you fix the gap.
Right. But I think the bottom line to that question is that under promise and over
Over
deliver.
deliver.
Bottom
Yes.
line, if I may put it in one sentence.
Correct. Yes.
We will now, we have about 13 to 15 minutes before we close this panel. And the next couple of questions or 2, 3 questions, we're going to focus more about the existing situation, that is the coronavirus crisis that has, affected all of us, especially the travel industry and more so the experiential travel. So first thing, our audience is concerned, how do you manage, how are you guys managing the expectations post, COVID? The expectations and concerns of your customers, your travelers. How do you manage the trust related factors versus pure business interests? So Arjun, maybe you could take this one.
Yeah, see, COVID is on us, and not many people can predict how the future is going to be.
Correct.
So again, as an industry leader or somebody who is defining how the industry functions, we kind of have to take the responsibility of also taking the right calls for COVID.
Correct.
Now, a lot of our trekkers were telling us, when are we going to start? When are we going to resume? We're going to say, no, hang on. We know when you're going to resume. When we see this infection coming down to a certain reasonable level, and then we will resume our treks, and things will uh, resume as usual earlier. So that's how it is. Usually, is that you have to take the judicious call about not only for you but for your even for your trekkers and travelers and whoever is going and take that decision. Will this whole world change after COVID? Yes, a lot of precautions will be taken and a lot of situations will change, but it's not also going to overtly change anything dramatically so much also.
Okay.
So we don't expect that to happen. It's just that we have to wait it out a little bit longer, and we'll take that call when we feel that it is safe. We'll start.
Okay. So one thing that I understand, Arjun, with especially Indiahikes is that being the authority, being the ultimate authority in hiking, whatever the steps you're going to take, everybody will be watching and they will follow those. Most of them will end up following what you do. So I think very important there to have that sense of clarity, about the next steps. What are the best practices you're going to include in your, the experience part of it. I think very important there. So yes, you'll definitely need a lot of work to be done on that aspect. When are you thinking of a timeline when this is you're going to start? Any thoughts as of now?
Yes, we're kind of thinking that when the infections in our country, the what you would call the active infections or the daily infections. See, though everybody talks about recovery rate and things like that, but for all practical purposes, people watch that what's the daily infection today? Is it 100? It is 200? So we feel that when it will come down to around about 100 or 50, then it is safe for people to start trekking or doing any group activity, which is a group travel, because there is a fear around this that I may catch an infection or I may pass on the infection to another. So we have that thing. When is that likely to happen? It's a little difficult to say, but post Diwali is what we see that is likely to happen, not anytime soon.
Okay. So we're looking at typically the year end, 2020 year end, and until then. So it must be quite a task, the team members, and how is that being taken care of, Arjun?
Team members are still with us. We are working and we haven't stopped working. Our treks would have has stopped. Our earnings have stopped, but we have not stopped working. So we are working on fixing things which were broken. This has given COVID, I would say, has given us a golden opportunity to fix our kind of a back end, fix the things. The lot of content work that we were doing on the website and things like that. So a lot of these works are going on, and we are as busy as we were on even before COVID, and nothing has stopped except that treks are not happening. When it happens,
Right.
we will see.
It's the forced preventive maintenance that's happening, which you did not plan
I
for.
wouldn't call it maintenance. I would call it progressive work. We are carrying on with the work because trekking is one aspect of it. See, when we are the pioneers of the industry, when we are defining the industry, there are a lot of defining work also that you have to do, which is both online and things like that, and that is happening.
Sure. Yeah.
Except the defining work on the trekking front is not happening, but otherwise it's still happening. So nothing has stopped us.
Right. Shalini, over to you. How are things emerging? Where do you see this, starting back? How are you guys managing in the current scenario? A few thoughts on that, please.
It's going to be extremely slow. It's not going to be as easy as it was, and it's going to take almost a year to get back to what we were in the beginning of 2020 or say 2019. Hotels are of course being extra cautious. For now, post lockdown, I think drivecations, staycations are still more because people are so fed up of being at home. They are venturing out for a week or 2 weeks, or even taking up villas and bungalows in on the hills and driving up, staying there. They just need Wi-Fi. They can work from anywhere. Children can attend school from as long as that there is Wi-Fi, so it doesn't matter. This is happening, yes, but hotels are of course also very cautious. There are new dining rules. It's not just how easy it was earlier. It is contactless, as effortless as it can be, and as smooth as the hoteliers are really trying to do that, but it's still not going to be easy, and it is, I think, going to take easy the entire rest of 2020 as well, for things to smoothen out, for the creases to even out, and people to start trusting travel. For now, people are flying as well, even domestic. International, of course, is still sealed, but it's purely business, and it's purely people who just need to get there for something important. It's not really touristy. It's not that people just want to go for a leisure holiday, take a flight and go off. It's
Mhm.
not going to happen so easily. It's going
Right.
to be very, very slow growth.
Right, right. Also, current scenario, how are you managing in these times? So are you engaging with your audience? How are you doing that?
Yeah, we are keeping in touch with them, regular on and off calls with our clients, messaging them, being in touch, keeping our mailers on, communication on. We are doing our product development and identifying hotels, destinations that would work in 2021, because it's not also going to be that every country is opening up immediately. It's going to be gradual, that some a country may open up after 6 months for Indians. The country may open up probably mid 21 for Indian passengers. So keeping track of that, updating as the rules are changing every single day, on
Right.
flights, on visas, everything. So there's something new coming up every day, even in the air bubbles, and there's actually quite a bit of confusion as well
Mm.
on who is allowed and who is not allowed, what airline is doing. What's the process on the refunds, and what if the flights get cancelled? So there's it's still pretty chaotic, honestly.
I'm sure. Yes. Tejaswini, we'll come to you on this, the same set of questions for you. How are things going on right now? How do you foresee this emerging? Few thoughts around that, please.
Right. I think throughout the lockdown period, I mean, we sit out of Bangalore, so we had a lockdown, and then we had the similar lockdown that the entire country was on, and then we had another lockdown for about a week and a half.
Correct.
So throughout these phases of lockdowns, what we did was we had multiple webinars introducing destinations. We believe that a traveler, despite sitting in the house, his or her mind is constantly wandering,
Okay.
right?
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So the need to see these places, when you trigger these memories, the need to go out is stronger. So we believe that to keep our audience engaged, you need to trigger these memories. So we had webinars, and we connected with all of we usually have group departures. So we connected with every group of travelers on Zoom calls, and we made the best of this time to actually connect with each and every one of our customers individually and even as groups. So we did that through the pandemic. And what we also did was we kept a close watch on how things are going.
Mm.
What does it take? We also got on board a doctor to tell us, a pulmonologist, to tell
Mm.
us how this virus is working. Right? I mean, nobody right now has a definite answer. So we worked with different agencies, and we put out a SOP of things that says that, okay, when we open, these are things we are going to follow. And we as an organization have always been extremely transparent with our customers. So we put that SOP in place, and we put it on our website and said, this is what we're going to do. So then we have started, our city. So we, again, as an organization, we believe we have never built to last. We've built to adapt, right? So
Okay.
we said we are not going to be that bridge that is going to stay there even if there's no river going under it. We're
Mhm.
going to turn things around. So if we had multi-day biking tours in Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Sikkim, and wherever, We said, never mind. We in Bangalore, we have 11 million people who want to go out and cycle and see their own city. So we put our protocols in place, and then we followed those protocols, and we've started work. We want to get people to step out, but in complete safety, knowing that they are going to keep distance, knowing that they're going to have their masks on at all times, knowing that all the equipment that they're using is absolutely, going through, is sterilized, touch points are cleaned up. These are things that, we have to keep in mind, keeping the priority of the customer, and in turn also ours. So it's you're safe, I'm safe. If I'm safe, you're safe.
Correct.
And that's how it works. So yeah.
Agree to that. I think a lot of it. Also, I think one thing that's a blessing in disguise, I'd say, is social media, particularly the WhatsApp and Facebook. There is a lot of information, but it also comes with the darker side. There is a lot of misinformation that is circulated. So a lot of hoopla and hype around that as to what's going to happen. Is it going to be safe? And so I think all the more important for each one of you to be sharing that relevant information with your travelers so that they are at ease, they are at comfort. I think very relevant in such times. Arjun, we have one question for you from one of our audience. They are asking, have you organized treks in the valley? How has been your experience, and how do you market for high-end trekking enthusiasts? I'm not sure what high-end trekking enthusiast means, but yeah, if you could add.
Valley would mean what?
Is it Mr. Sardar Ramesh Sudhan? Is it you're mentioning about the Kashmir Valley?
Kashmir is he talking about? Yes. Okay. So yeah, we have organized treks in Kashmir. In fact, we started trekking in Kashmir, and that's how Kashmir trekking has grown in our country. And high-end customers, see, you know what? We don't look at trekkers as high-end or low-end customers. The thing is that we are defining a certain culture of trekking, a certain spirit of trekking, and that's what we stand by. It may not go with somebody's perceived nature that trekking must be very, with a lot of tables and chairs or whatever it is. We don't believe in that kind of trekking. Trekking is a kind of an adventure sport, and it must stay as an adventure sport. So that's the kind of trekking that we do. High-end customers, see, most of our trekkers who come with us are from the upper middle class. They are, if you look at it, from the top income bracket of our country. So but they are all perfectly okay with the kind of trekking that we do, and the kind of trekking is there in our country, and they very much enjoy it. So if that answers this question, that so most of our trekkers are from that background.
Sure. I think that answers. One interesting question that we have. It's easy to say manage engagement with clients, but revenues have dried up. So how are you managing? Where's that budget coming from? They say, I'm assuming it is we all save for a rainy day, and so that's what is helping. But yeah, maybe you could add.
Actually, engaging with your customers, or in our case, our trekkers, do not take much money.
Okay.
I want to clarify that very clearly. It doesn't require money to engage with this thing. It requires intention. And that's what we have been doing. And trekkers are very much engaged with us, and they're still with us. We're talking all the time. And, our videos are going on, our, Instagram sessions are going on. It's almost every day this is happening with our, this thing. They're constantly engaged. Our mailers are going, they're replying back. They reply back in not, one or two, they reply back in hundreds. Mm-hmm. So it's a very engaged community that we have, and nothing has stopped except, in fact, so many of them are very engaged because they want to know what's happening next.
Right. Given the passion that drives each one of you, I think, it's relevant it's apt to say that, do we spend on communicating with our family? We don't. That's not a cost, or that we don't need a budget for that. So maybe each one of you is communicating with your family, so you don't need a budget, or it doesn't cost a bomb to connect with your family, right? I think
yes, it does not cost money, actually.
Right. Shalini, you were saying something. You were adding to that, yeah?
No, I was just saying that probably I think what the person meant, that to engage with your clients, everything said and done, but how are we sustaining if there is no income? I think that's what the person meant. That, of course, it is savings. Like you rightly said, we all save for a rainy day, and there's no worse rainy day than what is currently going on. So it is pretty much, yeah, the savings. There are a lot of agents that I know, I would say at least 30 to 40% who have ventured into alternative businesses. During the pandemic, once the lockdown started, everyone started looking for their plan Bs because a lot, I would think at least about 85% pretty much, everyone was travel dependent, the travel agents, the travel community. But once we knew that this is going to last at least 6 to 8 months, and that's a long time for people who have families, and the expenses don't stop, honestly. So everyone pretty much has started looking for a plan B, venturing into other businesses and trying to get some funds flowing.
Correct.
So that's how everyone has been sustaining. And a lot, of course, just using up the reserves because there's no other option.
Correct. I think resilience is the name of the game. If you're not resilient, entrepreneurship is not worth the effort. You shouldn't really venture into entrepreneurship. I think each one of
If
you
you're
will.
not resilient, no, absolutely. You got to be strong and positive because even when you do start out,
Right.
it's not going to be like you're going to start earning in millions the day you start. It's going to take you at least a year, 2 years, and then you still have good and bad months. It's not the same every month.
So one question from one of the audience here is that I'm currently pursuing engineering, penultimate year, want to venture into travel and tourism. I'm confused whether I should focus on my placements or my startup and start working. I think that answers that, you better go for a job right now. We'll come back to travel whenever it opens up.
Yes, absolutely. This is not the time to start travel. Any venture into travel, this is not the correct time.
Arjun,
People who are already there are rocking their boats and they're wondering whether they're drowning or they're trying to stay afloat.
yeah.
So just wait for things to get better, wait for things to fall in place, and then find your niche and start.
Arjun, Tejaswini, any different thoughts, any differing views on that?
No, not too many different views. I think actually I wouldn't connect this with the COVID world at all.
Okay.
If a young person is straight out of college and he wants to get into travel industry as a business, I would say let him, like how I think all three of us said, that get a little bit more ingrained in your hobby a little bit more. Whatever travel that you like, whether it is biking or diving or trekking or any kind of travel, that get it a little bit more, maybe 1 2 years. You must put your heart into it, and then you will notice the problems where you can come in or you can get in. It's got nothing to do with COVID as such.
Right. Right.
Maybe he could the person could join one of your companies as a remote employee and experience what you guys are doing. Maybe it also builds some toughness, some resilience in the person. Yeah.
I think that's a very good suggestion from your side.
That's a very good suggestion. Thank you so much for that. We have a lot of questions, but unfortunately, I am running out of time now. We are at the end of our panel. We have a lot of questions. I would love to ask more, but really great. Shalini, Tejaswini, Arjun, you guys have been great sport, answering all questions for us. Thank you so much for taking time and joining us. I wish you all the luck, all the best wishes from each one of us here. Soon we're going to get out of this, and hopefully I will be able to connect with each one of you. We can book travel for us, and we can go hiking and cycling, and yeah. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. All the best, guys.
All the best. Bye bye.
Thank you. It was a great learning experience.
Sure, Arjun. Thank you so much.